very first thing when running EZMod3D is to create a new project, either by File, New Project, or by the button here, New Project. To create a new project, just comes to define a name, for instance, and choose a domain, which can be resistive, capacitive, thermal, magnetic, or even chemical. Define potential sources eventually, even though the default values are suitable in most cases. Define the base pitch, 1 micron for instance here, but it can be changed eventually later on. When creating the project, we advise that materials should be defined. So let's go to the material section. In the material section, we can define a new material by clicking on new material and entering all the parameters that are required. Or the other option is to import materials from the library that contains a number of materials of common use in the electronics domain. For instance, let's say we choose air, copper and FR4 to work in the PCB world. That's it. We have created our materials, and now we can make a save, and now we can define the layers. For layers, the only option is to create a new layer with a name, for instance layer 0. Define that layer 0 is made from air, and it will be 11,000 micron thick, for instance. Okay, we can also decide to force its color to be that of the material air, even though air is quite difficult to define a color for. When it comes to create a new layer, again we can create a layer. For instance, we can decide to start more or less half the thickness of our air layer, let's say 5000 micron, and choose a copper layer of 35 micron thick by clicking on copper, defining the thickness, and automatically it computes that the top will be 35 microns above the bottom. Apply again. Now an interesting feature is that we can, by a right click on the existing layer, decide that we create a new layer above that one. For instance, we choose FR4 and we say 800 microns, and it knows that the thickness with the bottom defines the top, and that's it. And again we can create a new layer of copper above that one, 35 microns thick, and that's it. Now we are done with the materials in the layer. We're ready to go on creating the project. We can save it, and an important feature is that we can save this setting as a text file. Let's say we call it tech1. So it is stored in a text file, the entire set of materials and layers. So next time we have to create a new project using the same technology, that is to say the same set of materials and set of layers, we can, instead of defining these data again, we can decide to load the text file, and all these predefined things will come in a single click, all for creating a project.